Sacred Texts. The Laws of Manu. Chapter 3, A maker of bows and of arrows, he who lasciviously dallies with a brother's widow, the betrayer of a friend, one who subsists by gambling, he who learns, the Veda, from his son. An epileptic man, who suffers from scrofulous swellings of the glands, one afflicted with white leprosy, an informer, a madman, a blind man, and he who cavils at the Veda must, all, be avoided. A trainer of elephants, oxen, horses, or camels, he who subsists by astrology, a bird fancier, and he who teaches the use of arms. He who diverts water courses, and he who delights in obstructing them, an architect, a messenger, and he who plants trees, for money. A breeder of sporting dogs, a falconer, one who defiles maidens, he who delights in injuring living creatures, he who gains his subsistence from suitors, and he who offers sacrifices to the Ganas. He who does not follow the rule of conduct, a man destitute of energy like a eunuch, one who constantly asks for favors, he who lives by agriculture, a club-footed man, and he who is censured by virtuous men. A shepherd, a keeper of buffaloes, the husband of a remarried woman, and a carrier of dead bodies, all these must be carefully avoided. A Brahmana who knows the sacred law should shun at sacrifices, both to the gods and to the manes, these lowest of twice-born men, whose conduct is reprehensible, and who are unworthy to sit in the company at a repast. As a fire of dry grass is unable to consume the offerings and is quickly extinguished, even so is it with an unlearned Brahmana. Sacrificial food must not be given to him, since it would be offered in ashes. I will fully declare what result the giver obtains after death, if he gives food, destined for the gods or manes, to a man who is unworthy to sit in the company. The Rakshasas, indeed, consume the food eaten by Brahmanas who have not fulfilled the vow of studentship, by a parivatri and so forth, and by other men not admissible into the company. He must be considered as a parivatri who marries or begins the performance of the Agnihotra before his elder brother, but the latter as a parivati. The elder brother who marries after the younger brother who marries before the elder, the female with whom such a marriage is contracted, he who gives her away, and the sacrificing priest, as the fifth, all fall into hell. He who lasciviously dallies with the widow of a deceased brother, though she be appointed to bear a child by him, in accordance with the sacred law, must be known to be a Dinashapati. 2 kinds of sons, a Kunda and a Galaka, are born by wives of other men. He who is born, while the husband lives, will be a Kunda, and he who is begotten, after the husband's death, a Galaka. But those two creatures, who are born of wives of other men, cause to the giver the loss of the rewards, both in this life and after death, for the food sacred to gods or manes which has been given to them. The foolish giver of a funeral repast does not reap the reward, for as many worthy guests as a man, inadmissible into company, can look on while they are feeding. A blind man by his presence causes to the giver of the feast the loss of the reward for 90 guests, a one-eyed man for 60, one who suffers from white leprosy for 100, and one punished by a terrible disease for 1,000. The giver of a sraddha loses the reward due for such a non-sacrificial gift, for as many brahmanas as a guest who sacrifices for suitors may touch, during the meal, with his limbs. And if a brahmana, though learned in the Veda, accepts through covetousness a gift from such a man, he will quickly perish, like a vessel of unburned clan water. Food given to a seller of soma becomes ordure, that given to a physician pus and blood, but that presented to a temple priest is lost, and that given to a usurer finds no place in the world of the gods. What has been given to a brahmana who lives by trade that is not useful in this world and the next, and a present to a brahmana born of a remarried woman, resembles an oblation thrown into ashes. But the wise declare that the food which is offered to other unholy, inadmissible men, enumerated above, is turned into adipose secretions, blood, flesh, marrow, and bone. Now hereby what chief of twice born men a company defiled by the presence of unworthy guests is purified, and the full description of the Brahmanas who sanctify a company. Those men must be considered as the sanctifiers of a company who are most learned in all the Vedas and in all the Angas, and who are the descendants of Kshatriyas. A Trinakikada, one who keeps 5 sacred fires; a Trijuparna, one who is versed in the 6 Angas; the son of a woman married according to the Brahma rite, one who sings the Jyasthasman; one who knows the meaning of the Veda, and he who expounds it; a student, one who has given 1,000 cows, and a centenarian must be considered as Brahmanas who sanctify a company. On the day before the Sraddha rite is performed, or on the day when it takes place, let him invite with due respect at least 3 Brahmanas, such as have been mentioned above. A Brahmana who has been invited to a rite in honor of the Manis shall always control himself and not recite the Veda, and he who performs the Sraddha must act in the same manner. For the Manis attend the invited Brahmanas, follow them when they walk, like the wind, and sit near them when they are seated. But a Brahmana who, being duly invited to a rite in honor of the gods or of the Manis, in any way breaks the appointment, becomes guilty of a crime, and, in his next birth, a hog. But he who, being invited to a Sraddha, dallies with a suitor woman, takes upon himself all the sins which the giver of the feast committed. The Manis are primeval deities, free from anger, careful of purity, ever chaste, averse from strife, and endowed with great virtues. Now learn fully from whom all these Manis derive their origin, and with what ceremonies they ought to be worshipped. The various classes of the Manis are declared to be the sons of all those sages, Mariki and the rest, who are children of Manu, the son of Hiranyagarbha. The Somasads, the sons of Virag, are stated to be the Manis of the Satyas, and the Agnishvadas, the children of Mariki, are famous in the world as the Manis of the gods. The Barhishads, born of Atari, are recorded to be the Manis of the Daityas, Danavas, Yakshas, Gandharvas, snake deities, Rakshasas, Suparnas, and Akimnaras. The Somapas those of the Brahmanas, the Havarbugs those of the Kshatriyas, the Ajapas those of the Vaisyas, but the Suklins those of the Sudras. The Somapas are the sons of Kavi, Prigu, the Havishmats the children of Andras, the Ajapas the offspring of Pulastya, but the Suklins, the issue of Vasishta. One should know that other classes, the Agnadagdas, the Anagnadagdas, the Kavyas, the Barhishads, the Agnishvadas, and the Samyas, are the Manis of the Brahmanas alone. But know also that there exist in this world countless sons and grandsons of those chief classes of Manis which have been enumerated. From the sages sprang the Manis, from the Manis the gods and the Danavas, but from the gods the whole world, both the movable and the immovable in due order. Even water offered with faith to the Manis, in vessels made of silver or adorned with silver, produces endless bliss. For twice born men the rite in honor of the Manis is more important than the rite in honor of the gods, for the offering to the gods which precedes, the Sraddhas, has been declared to be a means of fortifying the latter. Let him first invite a Brahmana, in honor of the gods as a protection for the offering to the Manis, for the Rakshasas destroy a funeral sacrifice which is left without such a protection. Let him make the Sraddha begin and end fault with a rite in honor of the gods; it shall not begin and end with a rite to the Manis, for he who makes it begin and end with a rite in honor of the Manis, soon perishes together with his progeny. Let him smear a pure and secluded place with cow dung, and carefully make it sloping towards the south. The Manis are always pleased with offerings made in open, naturally pure places, on the banks of rivers, and in secluded spots. The sacrificer shall make the invited Brahmanas, who have duly performed their ablutions, sit down on separate, prepared seats, on which blades of kusa grass have been placed. 209. Having placed those blameless Brahmanas on their seats, he shall honor them with fragrant garlands and perfumes, beginning with those who are invited in honor of the gods. Having presented to them water, sesamum grains, and blades of kusa grass, the Brahmana, sacrificer, shall offer oblations in the sacred fire, after having received permission to do so from all the Brahmana guests conjointly. Having first, according to the rule, performed, as a means of protecting, the Sraddha, oblations to Agni, to Soma, and to Yama, let him afterwards satisfy the manes by a gift of sacrificial food. But if no sacred fire is available, he shall place the offerings into the hand of a Brahmana, for Brahmanas who know the sacred texts declare what fire is, even such is a Brahmana. They, also, call those first of twice born men the ancient deities of the funeral sacrifice, free from anger, easily pleased, employed in making men prosper. After he has performed the oblations in the fire, and the whole series of ceremonies in such a manner that they end in the south, let him sprinkle water with his right hand on the spot where the cakes are to be placed,